Hello, hello, hello. How are you guys doing today? Well, if it starts off that way, you know it's going to be a serious video. Yes, today we're going to have a serious video talking about Raw Beauty Christy and her newest video that she posted. I got bombarded literally with requests to talk about this video. And it's interesting because typically when Christy posts a video that people want me to respond to, they will say it's all specifically about one thing that she says in her video. But this one, I got tons and tons of DMs about, direct messages in my Instagram, of people saying, did you see Christy's video? You gotta respond to Christy's video. Oh my God, did you hear that Christy said this? And it's kind of a lot of different things. It's a lot of people saying like 3 different things that they took issues with. So I watched her video last night and I made some notes, which I wanna read from, but listen, Linda. I just made some coffee right here, just made some coffee, and I have my mother-in-law's Christmas party tonight. So I thought, we're just gonna sit down, I have many lip glosses and things to choose from here. I don't have a craft corner like Christy does. I don't have a craft corner. But if I did, I would definitely sit in my craft corner to respond to this today. Or my gnome house. So I don't have a gnome house either. Or whatever she's building behind her house that she says she's not building on her property. But apparently people keep on clocking that she's building stuff. And somebody even said she's sitting in a window showing something that she's building behind her house. I don't know about that. I thought Christy said she wasn't building on her property. A school or a sister's house or whatever. So I don't know. I think she said she does want to build a log cabin out there, but she can't afford it. So then she'll just build one herself. I don't know. That's not really the point of this video. The point of this video is that Christy has made another deep dive controversial video. Now, I have to tell you, as somebody that has now been covering the drama of Christy for, I would say, the last year and a half or so, it doesn't surprise me that in December, and a lot of people clocked this in the last video that I did, that in December, which is supposed to be considered the biggest AdSense month, and I explained this in my last Christy video that I did, that she's posting these videos where the thumbnail, okay, is all, and you know what, I should probably take a screenshot of this so I can show you guys. Here, hold on a second, we'll just take a little screenshot of this. Let's make sure that I edit it real nice and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so, that the thumbnails of these are, she's got all the questions that she got asked on Instagram, and then the first one is, this gets really deep, answering what you want to know. And the second one is, let's do this again, getting deep and controversial topics you wanted to know. And I'm like, okay, this is so interesting to me that you are doing 2 of these controversial videos, which, remember, she said she wasn't going to do those anymore. I don't know if you guys remember that, but I covered that about 4 months ago. She said she wasn't going to do any of these deep controversial videos because those deep controversial videos are what got her into trouble. And I said that Christy would continue to do the deep controversial videos, but she would put them at the end of the month, okay? Or at the time that she was going to make the most money off of it. Well, now she's posted back-to-back 2 deep controversial videos in the highest paying month, supposedly, on YouTube, okay? Is that surprising to you? I'm just going to leave everything up to you guys today, okay? I'll just leave you guys answer all the questions, and because these are the questions that you guys wanted to know per Christy. One of the things that is interesting to me is that in both videos, okay, and hold on just a second, let me look. Both videos, the first video is it's longer than that, isn't it? 46 minutes and 15 seconds. The second video is 36 minutes and 31 seconds. And in the first video, she answers questions about religious beliefs, skepticism about everything, no longer building your sister a house, rudest celebrity you've ever met, 2025 plans and goals, still friends with any beauty influencers, schooling your kid. The second one, she talks about politics. What do you think about the drones? People being against FDA regulations, health insurance is a scam, infertility and grief, made any bad financial decisions, thoughts on vloggers exploiting their kids as family vloggers. But it's really interesting to me. I don't know. I guess people aren't asking the questions, but it's very interesting to me that in 2 controversial deep opinion videos that nobody has asked about James Charles or her stance aligning with anti-LGBTQIA plus beliefs. That's really interesting to me. But I guess nobody's asking those questions. I don't know. So anyway, let me have a little sip of coffee. So I went in and I watched this video last night, and I don't really know what people want me to say. I don't really know what people want me to say about, I guess because I'm the go-to expert on Raw Beauty Christy, right? It's like, you know, even though there are TikTokers that are talking about Raw Beauty Christy, they're getting I don't know, 9, 10 times as many views as I'm getting on my YouTube videos, but apparently I'm the go-to person for talking about Rob Beauty Christy. Okay, so let's do it, right? Let's talk about Rob Beauty Christy. So I went in and I watched this video. Now let me pull it up for you really quick because she has underneath here listed, first of all, it is a sponsored video. It's sponsored by something to do with deleting your online presence, which I thought was kind of interesting that was her sponsorship that she did. I thought it was funny because there was one comment and somebody said something about like, oh my God, I'm so happy that you're doing this sponsorship because I'm going to buy it immediately because I've been trying to. There was like some comment about that. But I thought it was interesting that her sponsorship for this was Join Delete Me, which is, I don't know, deleting yourself off of the internet or whatever. It's like your online presence. Okay. So here are her timestamps. Are you ready? And she does disclose appropriately the sponsorship. I just want to make that very, very clear in a time that we're talking about FTC, not FDA guidelines. But somebody said, I think you're talking about FTC, not FDA guidelines, but she is actually talking about FDA guidelines. She's talking about like things in foods and things like that, like food coloring. Okay, so she does disclose appropriately. She has the paid programming box hit in the corner and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So the first thing she does is the sponsorship for the video, which is where it should belong. And then she goes into what kind of traditional job would you get if you had to? And she says that she would be a therapist, okay? That she would go back to school and she would be a therapist is what she would do. And I think that's great. And she says some other things, and she used to work for a veterinarian and all this kind of stuff. And I can kind of see Christy doing that. And so anyway, I think it's interesting though that the questions that she got are things like, what would you do when if you weren't working online and things like that, right? Now, I get questions like that, okay? But I just call them Q&As. I don't say these are the most controversial questions in the entire world. I guess I should. I guess I should start calling my videos the most controversial questions you guys wanted to know the answers from, and then it'll be like, what was your favorite TV show of 2024? That would probably be good, because it's interesting to me that the questions she's answering are things like this. Like, what would you do if you weren't working on YouTube? Those are the controversial opinions that she has or questions that she's answering. But nobody's asking about James Charles or her anti-LGBTQI plus speculative belief system because she's never spoken to it, or her alignment with James Charles as a predator because she's never spoken to it. Nobody's asking about that. Nobody's asking. The next time she puts up a Q&A, I'm going to ask those two things. So at least somebody can say, well, I asked that question. Did anybody ask Christy those questions? Okay. Well, if you do, you probably just get blocked anyway, so be real careful. Okay, then the next one was, what do you think about the drones? So again, people are more interested in what Christy thinks about the drones. Nobody's even asked me what I think about the drones, okay? Why? Why are you guys asking me what I think about the drones? But people are more interested to know what Christy thinks about the drones than they do about her alignment with James Charles and the anti-LGBTQI plus rhetoric. Okay, what do you want your life to look like at the end of 2025? My opinions on U.S. politics. What is something that you have done differently with your finances when you were younger? She talks about being a big saver. American healthcare is a scam. Talk about the fact that people are against stricter FDA regulations. Opinion on child exploiters, aka mommy, daddy vloggers, infertility, grief, and your response to my last video about religion and self-censorship. So here's the thing, okay, about Christy when I watch this video. Okay, so if you go back 2 videos of mine, it doesn't really matter. I just want to make this very clear. It doesn't really matter what I say about Christy anymore. If I make the most glowing video about Christy, the people that love Christy still call that a hate video. I mean, I could come in this video and be like, Christy, here's some flowers and doormat for your gnome house, and I love you so much. And people be like, Peter came for Christy again. It doesn't matter what I say. But 2 videos ago, I was very, very fair to her. You can go watch the video, okay? I was very fair to her. And I said it was the Christy that I missed. And it was the Christy that I missed. I don't take that part away from what I felt in that moment. That I miss watching the Christy videos where she literally just sits down and she has a very authentic conversation. There was a time when, there's been a time when I've watched Christy's videos, and I don't watch all of them, okay? I just watch them if people tell me there's something I need to respond to, where she seemed very angry or almost kind of like she felt like she was doing us a favor by filming the video, but she didn't really want to be sitting there doing the video, you know? And like, you should be so honored that Christy sat down and filmed a video. Maybe that was just me, but I've said that in other videos and people said, oh, I totally feel that take. So the last video of hers that I watched, which was the questions before this, it felt kind of like a return to the old Christy. It felt like she was just sitting there. Like this one, she's sitting there and she's like putting this shoe together in her craft room and all this kind of stuff. And it's just like she's kind of having a conversation. And what I realized in watching this video was, like, in the past, there were a lot of things. She's gotten into more controversial topics, and she said going into 2025, she's gonna tell her truth, girl. Okay, she ain't holding back, girl. She's gonna tell her truth, and you're gonna either like it or not. That's what she basically says at the end of the video. Okay, going into 2025, she is not going to hold back. Okay, so I hope going into 2025, since she is not gonna hold back and she is gonna tell her truth. Okay, that she's going to stop blocking people that have different opinions than her, that she is going to stop deleting comments, and that she will come out and tell her truth about, firmly, okay, and not about it, she'll word jumble, but she'll come out and say her stance on the James Charles situation and the anti-LGBTQI plus rhetoric. I think she should come out firmly and say it. Because like anything else, when you watch this video, it's interesting. She talks about, you know, insurance companies in the United States, which is a very, very hot topic right now. I think we know why. I think it's not... To me, it's not missed on me that she picked that topic during, I mean, something that just happened in this last week. So she talks about that. Well, there's very conflicting comments on the videos about that. And as far as like this and that, you know, the thing is that, like, when she talks, I'm specifically going to talk about the mommy vlogger part. When she talks about the mommy vlogger part, she talks about why she doesn't show her son's, you know, picture on camera and whatever, which I have mad respect for that. I think she's thought that through. But what she says is, that if she had, you know, gotten pregnant earlier when she first started on YouTube, she probably would have turned into a family vlogger because everybody was doing it then, right? And like, that's where I used to love Christy. It was the authenticity of saying, you know, I can see in other people what I would have done, right? Like, that's what I love about her. I think that's having a conversation, okay? What I don't like is when you step back from it and then you feel kind of like duped. Like, I got a lot of comments from people that are like, do you realize what she's doing with this comment or what she's doing with that comment? And I watched both previous videos, and either time I didn't see that in what she was doing until after somebody pointed it out to me. And then I kind of felt like, okay, like this is a bigger issue than that. So anyway, so these are all the topics that she talks about in her video, okay? And like I said, the video is what, 36 minutes and 15 seconds, and it's her putting on the shoe for 36 minutes. And, or doing something with this shoe, I don't know, you don't really see. And she's sitting in this chair, and somebody said that she's building something behind her house and you can see the A-frame of what she's building. No, that's not what she's got behind her house. Is her spiritual chapel that she has back there. It's like the A-frame of the spiritual chapel is what it looks like. Somebody said that it's framework. I think that's her. Am I wrong? Is it the Crystal Cathedral? I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But anyway, okay, so that was her video. I watched her whole video. Now let me get into my thoughts about that, okay? Like I said, I'm not really sure what people, they want me to come on video and say about Rob B. Christy, you know? To be honest with you, I don't really hold, and I'm going to read pretty directly from my notes, because I took a lot of notes last night. I don't really hold much value in what Christy has to say anymore. I just don't. You know, my mother taught me, don't value the opinion of those people you don't value to begin with. I don't value Christy based on how she has handled situations in the past. And I'm not talking about people asking her questions about, you know, this or that or groceries or whatever. I'm talking about, you know, or her education or past employment, things like that. I'm talking about really significant issues, okay? This is a woman now that has posted in the past month. I just want to make this really, really clear. She's posted 2 videos in the last month during what is supposedly the hottest AdSense month, the most money-making. 2 videos talking about controversial topics. But Christy herself has been involved in controversial topics in the last year at 2 major controversial topics. And she isn't willing to talk about those. And she's suggesting to her audience that nobody's asking those questions, okay? Or she'll kind of answer them, but in roundabout kind of answers. But she doesn't, okay? Because to answer them even a roundabout question would be, people ask me about my alignment with James Charles. This is the situation. People ask me about, you know, and this was what people said in the last video that I did, okay, or talked about her, was, you know, where she would say, I love all people. And that, like, I felt like that was, like, very little scraps on the table that we were going to get about her responding to the anti-trans allegations, okay? And somebody in my video commented and said, that feels very much to me like during Black Lives Matter when people would say all lives matter. And I was like, damn, they're right. Like, that is, you know, when I love everyone, it's like, okay, it's a very blanket kind of statement to stay out of trouble, but not to really have to address anything, right? Instead of saying, I mean, we're not asking you if you love, coal workers, in West Virginia. We're asking you about trans people, and you're not coming out and specifically talking about trans people. We're not asking you about Disney workers in Florida. We're asking you about trans people, and you're not specifically coming out and talking about trans people. So when she wants to make 2 videos talking about controversial topics, something that she said she wasn't going to do anymore, and not address the trans issue, I mean, which everybody knows that issue's related to her, okay? Listen, we didn't put the t-shirt on her kid. We didn't make him march in no parade, okay? She did all that, all right? That's on her. So, I mean, if she chooses to come out and address it or not, that's on her. But the fact that she's going to do 2 controversial videos. So when people ask me what I think about it, this is what I have to say, okay? 2 things. Number 1, I don't really have a high opinion of Christy, therefore anything that she says I don't really have a high opinion of, because like my mom taught me, don't value the opinion of someone you don't value to begin with. I don't value the way that Christy moves through the world, therefore how she thinks about things, therefore I don't value her opinion on things anymore. And I think that was different. That's something that's changed, number 1. Number 2, contrary to that, there is still a part of me that when I watch her videos, like, loves that old Christy. And I think I'm holding out for that old Christy. So, like, that's still there too when I watch her videos. Like, there's moments where I'm, like, laughing with her, and I'm like, oh yeah, like, I totally relate. And then there's other moments where I'm just like, God, that pisses me off so bad. And I go back and forth between that, It almost was better for me, to be honest with you, when I just wasn't watching Christy at all. Because I think it's kind of like this conflicting... I mean, Christy was a YouTuber. I mean, it's like I told you guys, I didn't know her that well, right? I mean, we had gone back... We went back and forth more in, like, direct messages than I thought that we had, and talked one time on the phone. But I didn't really know her that well, right? But she was somebody that I loved for a very long time, tried to get to, helped try to get to 1 million subscribers, shouted her out in videos, she shouted me out in videos. I really enjoyed her content for a long time. I think it's the disappointment of it all, and that she's maybe not as, she's skirting around issues, and she's not as, I don't know, she's not as humane as I thought she was. So let's get into what my biggest issue was with this video, okay? So my biggest issue in this video is that, these comments that she talks about, the agree to disagree stance, all right? So let's get into that, okay? Because she there's several comments on her video, okay? Now, I screenshot some of these comments. Let me get into them really quickly. Okay, so some people had some things to say. For example, somebody said... I feel like, and I think this was the #1 comment. Yeah, this is the #1 comment. I feel like the agree, because she says in there, I can have opinions with a lot of different people, and I can disagree. We can agree to disagree. Like, I want to have conversations with people that have different opinions than mine. Like, we can agree to disagree. And I'm like, okay, so that agree to disagree statement, I'll be honest with you, and I know that people say it on my videos all the time, and I'm probably pissing some people off, and honestly, I don't really care. I think it's like a conversation we need to have. The agree to disagree statement is a really privileged statement to make. It's a statement that people want to say when they don't want to move from their stance of ignorance, when they don't want to step inside, somebody else's experience and learn what that's about, when they don't even want to talk to somebody and have that experience. What they want to say is, I hear what you're saying, and I want you to know that I hear what you're saying, but I'm not listening, okay? And it's not permeating my skin at all, and I'm not going to change my opinion. So you can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but I'm not going to change my opinion, okay? And that's where I feel, we're going to get into this further, about the agree to disagree stance, okay? It's a very privileged statement to make, especially in the United States. When people say, I mean, we're not talking about Coke versus Pepsi, okay? Maybe that's an agree to disagree statement, okay? We're not talking about do peanut butter and chocolate belong together. And to me, that's almost kind of not even an agree to disagree statement, because I love chocolate and peanut butter together. I'm joking. But, I mean, we're not talking about, like, what do you think about a movie, or what do you think about this? Topics today that people get very even heated about, okay? We're talking about human rights, all right? We're talking about the right to marry in our country. We're talking about the right to this and the right to that. We're not talking, those are not agree to disagree statements, okay? And the other thing is, you can't take somebody's human experience away from them and say, well, I'm going to agree to disagree with your human experience. That's my human experience. You're disagreeing with my human experience? You're saying that my human experience, my lived experience is bullshit, is what you're saying. And it feels very invalidating in that moment when somebody goes, you know, like, I understand what you're saying about marriage equality, but we're going to have to just agree to disagree on that. What it makes me feel like in that moment, and I've had people say that to me, okay, about my right to be married to my husband in this country. When I have people that say that to me, it feels very invalidating. It feels like, wow, like you are going to agree to disagree with me when you can go and get married to anybody out there, okay? As a straight, you know, person in this country, you can go get married at 18 to anybody in this country, no questions asked, okay? But we had to jump through a bunch of hurdles, and now I still, as a legal marriage, I have to justify that to you by you saying we're going to agree to disagree on this. Well, you can get fucked. That's how I feel about it, okay? I know that people don't like when I say that statement sometimes, but that's how I feel about it, you know? That's truly how I feel about it, you know? You're going to disagree with my human experience? No, we're not going to do that, okay? And so that agree to disagree statement in 2024 hits a little bit different than it did in 2008. It's a completely different statement. It's an ignorant statement is what it is, okay? And so when she makes it in a statement in regards to talking to people with different belief systems, and she's followed this up by previously having talked about the government and insurance and things like that, and then she follows it up with, I talk to all different kinds of people with diverse backgrounds and diverse belief systems, and I don't have to have the same opinions as everybody else. Opinions about what, Christy? Are you talking about the trans issue? Because that's a whole different issue than if you're talking about whether you like Pepsi or Coke. Like, those are two completely different issues. So I'm confused as to what she's talking about here, okay? And obviously so is her audience, because the top comment says, I feel like the agree to disagree is valid for pineapple on pizza, but not about opinions that could potentially harm another human being. Having lesser opinions of some people than others, for example, being a homophobe is an opinion. It's not an opinion I can vibe with, just how I view it personally, but I too like having diverse conversations. Somebody else responds and says, so shocker, my tripod fell right as I was getting into this next comment. Okay, so next comment says, so shocker, I don't agree with a lot of this. We can disagree about which soda is best or how much to tax a Ferrari versus a Toyota. We can't agree to disagree about my right to live. And then she goes into this talking about like where she lives and all this kind of stuff. Okay, Christy actually responds to this and she says, completely valid. You absolutely have every right to do whatever you feel is necessary for yourself. And if you feel you don't align with me, that is your right. Because she says at the end of her statement that she's going to unsubscribe from Christy. However, given my answer, I think you've come to the wrong conclusion. I do not associate with people who dehumanize or treat others unkindly. I believe in equal rights for everyone. I can absolutely hear other sides and kindly disagree and move along. I am and have always been a loving ally. To who? To who, Christy? An ally to which community? There's a million of marginalized communities. Which community are you an ally to? Who are you talking to? Because she doesn't say in her comment anything about herself, right? Okay. I am and have always been a loving ally. I do not affiliate with any political party. I am for the people, not the government, but I respect your choice, feeling the need to go. What's interesting to me about this, in this agree to disagree statement, is that she goes into this long statement in her video about agree to disagree. But then in the comment section, this is a highly edited video. Somebody even comments on it and goes, all right for editing Christy, okay? Because she edits a lot in this video. It's always been interesting to me. I'll never forget, this is actually something that I asked her on the conversation that we had. When I watched her video that she did about Colleen Ballinger, if you watch that Unpopular Opinions video that Christy posted about Colleen Ballinger, she starts going into the Colleen Ballinger thing, and then all of a sudden there is a jump cut to a completely different subject. When we talked on the phone, I asked her about that. She said, oh, you clocked that, huh? And I said, yeah, what did you say that you didn't want the world to hear, that you edited out? She goes, it doesn't really matter. She wouldn't get into it with me. So it's interesting to me that people are just seeing that right now, that she edits stuff out. Christy edits stuff from her videos all the time that she doesn't want people to see. It's interesting that I get, criticized a lot for not editing, but other people like edit the shit out of their videos. You don't wonder what they're editing out of their videos. Mine's a one and done, baby, okay? I mean, a tripod might fall or a battery might die, but baby, it's a one and done, okay? You get what you get over here. You know, what's she editing out of the video that she then later has to come to the comment section for and respond to? Why didn't she say that in the video? Why didn't she get in the video and say, I love all people? What people, Christy? Is this another kind of like Black Lives Matter thing? You're an ally of all communities? What does that mean, Christy? I mean, it's like, it's very, to me, I'll never forget seeing this years and years and years ago in some interview when, I can't remember what it was, when somebody said, well, I don't see color. And then somebody that responded, I can't remember who it was. Who was the interview? And they were talking about the quote, "I don't see color." And it was a black woman they were interviewing. And she said, "Then you don't see me and you don't see my experience." You know, that those are kind of like white statements people make and things like that. It's like, you know, when people say, "I have lots of gay friends," or "My uncle's gay." Okay, well, that doesn't mean you're not a bigot. Just because you know people that are gay, or you have, you know, one friend that you like, or like, "Oh, I got my gay friends." That doesn't mean that you're not a bigot. You know, that doesn't mean that you wouldn't go and, you know, go against our rights, you know, or that you disagree with gay marriage just because you have a gay friend that you think might be fun, you know, to talk about RuPaul's Drag Race with, or, you know, sing "I Will Survive." That doesn't mean that you're not a bigot. I think that people misunderstand that in the world that we live in today, you know? And so it comes down to this, and there were a lot of comments on her video about this agree to disagree statement. I was kind of surprised. A lot of people she's left a couple of the comments up. I did notice that some comments were being deleted off of her video, but I don't know what those comments were. And people let me know that their comments have been deleted off the video. And they did not send their comments to me, but they let me know that their comments have been deleted from the video. I don't know what those comments were about. I didn't think that her video was that controversial, if you want to know the truth. I mean, she put on here, "Let's do it again, getting deep and controversial topic." What's deep? About what job you would have if you weren't working on, you know, line? I don't know if I think that's a deep conversation or not. I think this is where she wants people to come over to the video and think she's going to talk about James Charles, or she's going to talk about the anti-LGBT allegations, okay? But then you put it in a comment section that you're an ally for all people. Well, Christy, I'll be honest with you. To me, an ally is somebody that sticks up for me and stands up for me in rooms that I'm not in. So if you can't even get in a video and say that all these allegations about you being anti-trans are not true, and that you are for trans people and their rights, and you are for LGBTQI plus people, if you can't say that in a video, then you're not an ally of ours, okay? Because an ally of mine, a friend of mine, which somebody that will stand up for me, is somebody that will walk the walk with me, is somebody that will stand next to me, okay? That's what an ally is. An ally isn't somebody that hides behind words in a comment section. I'm sorry, that's just the truth, okay? Because we didn't get to where we got today in this world with allies that are hiding out in comment sections, alluding to things that we can't even make sense with, okay? We need people out there, and I've said this for a very, very long time in my videos, that I'm extremely thankful for the allies that I have had, okay, through the years, especially my straight male allies, okay, that have stood up for me, that have fought the good fight, okay, with me, alongside me, because they didn't have to. And it meant a lot more that it was coming from them, okay, because those were a lot of the people that I had to fight against coming up as a gay man in this country, when I was bullied by those same type of people. So then as an adult, okay, to fight for my rights with people that I felt like never had my back when I was growing up, and then later had my back completely, it felt so validating. It felt completely different, right? I've had people stick up for me and say, "You're not going to say that to him," or whatever, you know? I mean, and in conversations and parties and everywhere else, you know? That's what an ally does. In any situation, stands up for what is right. Kristi, I don't feel like you're an ally in any sense of the word. I'm sorry. I know you think you are. And I think it's a privileged stance, okay? Living on a home out in the middle of nowhere where you're kind of out of touch with reality. I think it's beautiful out there. I told you that on the phone, and I mean it. I think your house is beautiful. I think the land is beautiful, but I think it's a little easy to stay kind of out of touch with things, okay? When you live it. And that statement of "I agree to disagree" and "I'm an ally with no proof" kind of hits a little bit harder to me, and that's the next part of this. And so I wanted to read some of this. Yeah. When you're talking about this agree to disagree statement, right? You're speaking on rights, and that you hear from a lot. Okay. As a 52-year-old gay man, all right, who came out on the heels of the AIDS crisis, that people told us that we deserve to have AIDS. That was the world that I came out into, okay? We would go to Pride Days, and they would be holding up signs. You would be going to a gay bar, they'd be picketing outside, you know, that everybody deserved to get AIDS. That was the world that I came out in, okay? To later finding myself, okay, in a biracial marriage to a Venezuelan immigrant that is now a citizen of the United States, okay? That you cannot tell me what my experience is, okay? And tell me that we're going to agree to disagree on that statement. You cannot tell me that, all right? Just like my friend that is raising 3 biracial sons and would probably tell you that she's terrified on a daily basis for their safety, okay? you can't say to her, well, that's not valid and we're going to have to agree to disagree because there's nothing that they have to worry about. You can't say that to somebody that's their lived experience, okay? You can't say to me, well, we're going to agree to disagree on this. Or when you're talking about human rights, okay? When you're talking about what feels like human rights to you, those are very privileged statements to say from somebody that's never experienced it. And what I have learned in my 52 years from being here, and maybe I'm ignorant, I don't know, okay, is that agree to disagree statement is coming from people. It's a stance to hide behind their feelings, okay? When they don't take it seriously, whatever feeling or stance you're feeling, because they've never had to experience it before, because they live in a very privileged world where they have never experienced that before, right? You know, so having gone through what I'm going through, I have a hard time when people want to talk to me about their beliefs when it doesn't affect them whatsoever and then stand behind the stance, yeah, we can disagree. I'm not cool with that whatsoever, okay? You're basically invalidating my life experience, and I'm not cool with that, okay? But I'm just one story. There's millions of stories of different people out there with diverse backgrounds from marginalized communities. In fact, when we talk about, you know, if you remember on Saturday morning when we would grow up with the cartoons, they would have the cartoons, you know, the School of Rock, and they would talk about us being a melting pot in the United States. I don't know why we've gotten so far away from embracing that instead of, like, being afraid of that, okay? I mean, one of the things that Christy talks about in her video, which I 100% agree with, is that we are becoming a completely, like, you know, segregated world in the United States. I 100% agree with that. I think it's because people aren't allies and don't take stances on certain things that we have become that way, okay? And that people are afraid, and that people are not sharing their experiences. We are literally a country, okay, of marginalized communities that people are not respecting. I mean, the privileged people are literally the minority in our country, and I think that scares a lot of people. I really do, you know? And as somebody that has, you know, been part of, you know, an oppressed community for my entire life as a gay man, okay, and then, you know, stood by my husband and witnessed his experience and his family's experience and things like that. You can't tell somebody else what their experience is. You cannot tell somebody else what their experience is, all right? Number one, it's rude. Number two, you don't know their truth. You don't know somebody else's truth just by getting in a video and saying, yeah, we can agree to disagree. No, fuck that. No, you can't. It's not an agree to disagree statement. We're not talking about Coke versus Pepsi. We're talking about somebody's lived experience. It's like when somebody wants to disagree with me on my stance on recovery, okay, fine. There's a million different ways to get sober, but my experience is my experience. Somebody else's experience is somebody else's experience. That's why I like to have conversations with people. I like to have conversations where people, you know, that's why I don't delete comments on my videos. I don't, okay? Because I want to hear what other people's opinions are, you know? That's how I feel about it. So, you know, it's easy to have that stance of we can agree to disagree when you aren't directly affected by the conversation. When you aren't directly affected, I mean, Kristi goes in here and talks about people want to talk about infertility. Well, if that was the stance that we were talking about, I mean, if the stance was that people in this country right now were saying that this about that, blah, 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 whatever, you think Kristi is going to be like, we're going to agree to disagree on infertility? When that's like one of the things that people are asking her to talk about because that's her lived experience? Or she talks in there about having lost her mother. I've lost my mother too. If somebody said, well, I don't agree with you on your stance of having your explanation of grief, or whatever is important to her, you know, or her spiritual journey that she's going on right now, if anybody challenged that, that's her lived experience. You can't take that away from Kristi. Just like you can't take away my lived experience or somebody else's lived experience from them. That's our lived experience. That's not an agree to disagree statement. You know what I'm saying? That's scary that we've gotten to that point, you know? But in watching this video, I don't necessarily think that inherently Kristi is a bad person. I don't. Just like I don't think a lot of people out there that have this agree to disagree stance are bad people. But here's the problem, okay? That you can't understand how you feel if you've never been in that place. It's very much like the Atticus, you know, Finch quote from To Kill a Mockingbird, which is one of my favorites ever. You never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside of his skin and walk around in it. The problem is that many people in this country live a very privileged life where they never have to consider something from somebody else's point of view. They live in very comfortable worlds where they sit inside in their house and they watch the news and they go, yes, that's horrible, and yes, that's it, but they never really live it. They never experience it. It never affects their doorstep, okay? It never affects their Christmas. It never affects their wallet. It never affects their traveling in and out of this country. It never affects anything in their life. So it's very easy to stand behind the stance of, well, we're going to agree to disagree because it's never come to their doorstep. People radically don't really want change unless it affects their own life, okay? So is it strange to me that we're an outraged society where people are wanting a lot of rights for themselves right now? No. Like I said, we are a country that is built on oppressed and marginalized communities. People don't validate that, okay? Because people that are in privileged positions, they're really the minority now in this country. And that's scary to a lot of people. That's really, really scary, right? And so, you know, the reality is if we all just started listening to one another and maybe trying to respect one another instead of always fucking trying to be right. Because I agree to disagree means I am so refusing to back away and maybe even learn something from somebody else. I am so refusing to listen to your world experience, okay? Even that, Pepsi might be better than Coke. I am so refusing to listen to what your stance is on that I am gonna, by God, stand behind, we're gonna agree to disagree. I think it's an ignorant statement, okay? I think it's an absolutely ignorant statement. I think it comes from people that have the privilege to stand in that statement because they've never had it brought to their doorstep before, you know? So I think her wanting to have conversations with diverse people is a start, okay? I think it's very 18 years old going to college, you know? Let's have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people in the dorm and let's learn new things. But until it affects her personally, it's not going to affect her. It's not at all, okay? It's like it won't anybody else. And honestly, that's not really her fault, okay? Except it is her responsibility, if she cares enough and she wants to identify herself as an ally, and this is where I take issue with it, is when she says, I'm an ally. Then as an ally, it is your issue to go out, okay? And I don't know which community she's identifying as an ally here, but it is her job to go out and educate herself on what that means and what those communities go through, and to ask people in those communities that she is an ally of, because I don't even know which community she's referring to. Is she talking about the LGBTQIA plus community? Which community in the LGBTQIA plus community? Are you talking about the trans community? Are you talking about the lesbian community? Are you talking about the bisexual community? Because they get a really bad rap, you know? Are you talking about the gender nonconforming community? What are you talking about? Are you talking about the black community? Are you talking about the Latino community? What are you talking about, Christy? What community are you an ally of? All communities? Okay, so then we're going back again to this ideology that somebody said in my last video that it feels very much like what people would say during Black Lives Matter. That all lives matter, okay? Well, what that is that it is invalidating to the black life, is what it is, okay? So when you say, I love all people, what that is it's invalidating the conversation that we're having at hand, which is about trans people. But you won't come out and address that. And if you really were an ally of trans people, you would get in your video and you would say, this is absolute bullshit. I am an ally of trans people. I believe in trans rights. That's what an ally would do. But you haven't done that yet. So no, you are not an ally, okay? And you cannot speak to my experience and you cannot speak to other people's experiences. The only people that you can speak to their experience is yourself, okay? That's the only experience that you can speak to. But it's not her fault. Her only fault is that she's not going out and trying to educate herself about that, okay? She's sitting in her house, spouting off about worldviews, not trying to educate herself, not trying to interact with other people that might have different world experiences of them. I ask questions, okay? I've gotten a lot wrong in my life. I've done a lot of wrong shit in my life. I try to educate myself. I try to ask other people from their point of view, why might this be offensive to you? Or what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that from your point of view, from your lived experience? Because I'm not that lived experience. I don't have that. So, explain it to me. And people ask me all the time, what's it about like this as an addict? What's it like this as a gay man? What's it about this, blah, 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 you know? And I share my lived experience. And that's how we get to know one another in this world, right? But I don't know if she's going to do that. And until it affects her personally, she probably won't care, right? And all I'm asking for is that when people say that they agree to disagree, and this isn't just to Christy, this is to anybody out there when you make that statement, that we are going to have to agree to disagree, okay? And it's on a serious topic, not Coke versus Diet Pepsi. Imagine how it might feel to you in that moment if somebody said that to you about something that was inherently a part of who you were, okay? That you cannot change about yourself. That something inherently about who you were that is the makeup of you. If somebody said, we're going to have to agree to disagree with that, okay? If that was something that is inherently in your blood, who you are, how invalidating that would feel to you as a human being, okay? That because you were born to love another person, or born in a different body that looks different from somebody else's, or born in a different place from somebody else's, okay? That you are lesser than or more than somebody else is dehumanizing. As Christy says, she is not about dehumanizing. It is inherently dehumanizing to assume because you were born in a different body than somebody else who loves differently, that they look differently, or they were born somewhere differently, or with different backgrounds financially and things like that, inherently makes you a better person because you have rights to other things, is inherently dehumanizing. And I'm just asking people in the future when they make that statement to think about that, okay? You know, people cannot help that they are born white, straight, and privileged in our country. But that doesn't mean that they cannot listen to other people's experiences and accept them as truth. When someone says, agree to disagree about your personal experience, when they haven't experienced that feeling, and they don't know what it feels like, that they are invalidating your experience, okay? And then saying that it's untrue. Because when somebody says that to you, we're going to agree to disagree. What they're saying is, your lived experience is untrue. It's not their fault that that's how they were born in this country, okay? Just like it wasn't somebody else's fault how they were born in this country. But you can learn and you can educate yourself and you can ask questions, okay? And if you truly are an ally, if anybody is an ally out there, we would want to learn about different people's life experiences. And what a boring world it would be if we all were just one person anyway, you know? And I don't know, it just makes me sad. So it's a deeper conversation, and when she just flippantly throws it out there, and this is what I got the most comments about. Well, we can just agree to disagree. Can we, though? I can't. I can't just agree to disagree. But that's how I feel. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.